On this edition of Lewis-Lowry Family Reunion Live, we will be talking about how to plan a Lewis-Lowry family reunion. Here with me is affectionately known as Bert. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Roberta Lewis Clay. I'm the daughter of Robert Henry Lewis, who is one of the original founders of the Lewis-Lowry family reunion.
Okay, and my name is Nikki Biggs. I am Bert's daughter and granddaughter of Robert H. Lewis. So let's get right into the topic. Can you tell us, what is the Lewis-Lowry family reunion?
The Lewis-Lowry family reunion is an annual gathering of people who are descendants of William Lewis and Lydia Lowry Lewis.
Okay, I think that sums it up. Is the family reunion a weekend?
No, the family reunion is one day, or maybe you could even consider it a half day, but it is the event known as the reunion.
So I have always called this the reunion proper, to distinguish it from the events that may generally occur the day before or maybe even the day after. I consider the reunion proper when we get together all in one room and there is generally an official program. Would you agree, like that's what defines it?
Yes.
And the reunion is also a meal, right?
Yes.
So it's a program and a meal, but it can be held midday, morning,
Or
afternoon,
even evening.
Evening, right? And so, okay, I think we've well defined when we're talking about the reunion that we're not talking about a weekend full of events, but what our Lewis-Lowry family reunion incorporated bylaws define as this time when we will officially meet. And what we're going to be talking about is that reunion proper.
Yes.
Okay. So, for those of you who may be considering hosting a reunion, first we say yay, right?
Yes.
Yes, we want people to host reunions.
Oh, definitely.
We love going to different places or the same place over and over again. We love it when new people consider hosting the reunion too,
yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And we certainly want the younger generation now.
Oh, yes. I'm very, very, very excited about the younger people taking on the hosting role.
So, this video is to support the younger people, really not the seasoned reunion hoster, because they already have things that they know that want to do. But for those new people who are considering it and ready to dip their toe into the reunion effort, I think this will be helpful for them. What do you think?
Oh, definitely, definitely, because we're going to talk about the steps that you go through on how to do it and also the financing.
I think that's good stuff. So, what does someone do if they're thinking about hosting a reunion? Like, how do they go from I'm considering it to actually getting signed up? I know our bylaws say that we have to announce the location of the next reunion at least 1 year ahead. Mm-hmm. So how do they put their name on the roll 1 year ahead? What's that process?
Well, one thing that you need to do is consider your support system before you even bring it out as something that you're thinking about. Look around and see who you have to help you. And then once you have decided on that, and you may even want to consult with those people and make sure that they are willing and able to do it. Then your next step would be to announce it. And the announcement would come through your notifying the chair of the Lewis-Lowry Family Council that you are interested, and perhaps even what year you're interested in hosting.
I think that pretty much sums it up. So if you're interested, you've decided, you've consulted with your tribe, and y'all say we're going to go forward, the next thing to do is to sign up for a year.
Yes.
And you do that by contacting the chair of the Lewis-Lowry Family Reunion Council and selecting that year that you want.
Yes.
Pretty simple.
So far.
So far. So, now you've signed up. What are the host responsibilities? So we've already talked about that the reunion may be held, the gathering may be held over a weekend, but really the reunion proper is this 1 day event. What are the host responsibilities? Because as you're considering taking on this responsibility, you need to know what you need to do.
Well, the main host responsibility is having a vision for what you would like the reunion to accomplish. In the past, we have had many different types of reunions in terms of having people who will participate in the program, which we'll get into a little bit later, do assorted things. So you want to think about that, which will help you to decide your venue. And it will also help you to decide other details. So that's the first step, I think, that you want to think about where you want to have it, the city, the type of venue that would be convenient for your family members to attend.
Okay. So just for clarification, the host of the family reunion is not responsible for the family reunion program. You agree?
Oh, yes.
However, the venue where you're holding the reunion should accommodate the reunion president's programming desires, right? So if they want to do certain things, we want to make sure that the venue can accommodate their program.
And sometimes it's difficult to select a venue because we don't know the exact number of people that are showing up. So this could be a concern. And as you're planning, you could sense about how many people. For example, in South Carolina, you generally have a much larger crowd of people showing up than you do in some places that might be further away. Where there's a concentration of family members, they usually come.
That makes sense. So I think the top 3 responsibilities of a reunion host. So these are things to consider when you decide whether or not you want to host the reunion. Top 3. Number 1, venue. We have to have a place to hold the reunion proper. Number 2, there's a meal. So you have a venue, you have to provide food. And number 3, generally the host also identifies lodging or hotel accommodations for those traveling into the reunion. You
Yes.
agree?
Yes.
Now, to clarify, there are some things that are not the responsibility of the reunion host.
Yes. The program.
The program is not the responsibility.
No, it is the responsibility of the family president. That is the person who plans the program and contacts the individuals who will participate on the program, and if they so desire, prints the program and any other things that need to be done, for example, printing of the family song.
Makes sense. So, if you've attended any of our mini reunions, you'll see other events that go on. Picnics that are in addition to the reunion proper. Meet and greets, you'll see decorations, you'll see t-shirts, swag, pins, bags.
Cookouts, you'll even see trips to museums. You'll also
Tours, yes.
see tours. And once we even went to a casino.
Very good. So there's lots of all types of activities, right? There's bowling, there's
Car racing.
Yes, all kinds of things. But those are not required.
They are what I would call peripheral activities.
Oh, okay. Peripheral activities. I like that. But they are not required. So if you're feeling like I can't host a reunion because of all those extra activities, know that what we're talking about here is the reunion proper, and those other things are totally extra and not required.
Correct.
All right. So, you may have heard this already, but we are going to talk about the top 5 steps to hosting a Lewis-Lowry Family Reunion Incorporated gathering.
Yep.
Okay? Step number 1. It is to start early.
Definitely you should start early. I would say at least 6 to 9 months.
At least.
At least. And preferably longer.
I think it takes that long, like you said, to get your people together, to start to get your vision together, and then to go off and have to put your stuff into place, right? Mm-hmm. So 6 to 9 months, you definitely want to really be working diligently on planning and getting it together, right?
At least.
So this is the steps after you have contacted the reunion chair. You know what year you are working towards. We're talking about starting 6 to 9 months at least before that date.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Yes, for sure. Okay. So, when you start early, I think you're starting early with a list of those 3 things, right? Venue,
Mm-hmm.
meal,
Mm-hmm.
accommodations.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Step 2 is putting together your planning committee.
Oh, yes. That's very important.
Right? Delegating some responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be done all on one person.
Mm-mm.
It's a heavy lift, right?
Right.
Right. So definitely having your committee together to help and support and give ideas is important.
Very much so.
All right, that's step number 2. Step number 3 is identifying the location.
Yes. Yes. Just because you happen to live in Rock Hill does not mean that your reunion has to occur in Rock Hill. You might want to choose to go to Fort Mill.
That's a good point. You could actually go anywhere,
You could,
right?
and we have.
So there's no real rules. It could be outdoors, it could be indoors, it could be in a tent.
I do discourage you from being outdoors.
Oh, you do?
Yes, because of the weather. We just never know whether the weather is going to accommodate. So usually being inside works better.
You make good points. Okay, so on step number 3, with choosing a location, talk a little bit about generally the location requirements in terms of maybe contracting.
Well, the location requirements, number 1, now, you should have a location that accommodates people who may be infirmed, in wheelchairs.
That's a good point.
And sometimes just having an elevator or a ramp is good enough. You also, in terms of location, want to have it someplace that's not extremely difficult to get there. For example, you shouldn't have to take a ferry, or you shouldn't have to, cross some kind of a bridge that's a toll. to get to the location. So you want to be someplace that's relatively easily accessible and that has fairly good signage or directions to get there so that people won't get frustrated getting lost. Then with your venue, you want to think about the size. And as I said earlier, many times we don't know how many people are actually coming to the reunion. So you just have to estimate. And in your estimation, in the past, we've had as few as 12 people and as many as almost 200 people. So
that's a huge range.
I know, and it can be very frustrating, but you can get a very good idea of how many people might show up based on how many people in that particular location have shown up in the past. So that's another reason to have your support system, because people who have come in the past will have an idea that if you had a lot of people or if you only had a few people. So you want to look for, after you discover that, you want to look for a venue that will probably accommodate the average number of people that show up at the reunion. But again, it's difficult. It's difficult. But do you think, Nikki, that they should get a bigger place than they expect or a smaller place? How do you think that they should work on that?
Unfortunately, I think it all comes down to money. Right?
Well,
So I think you have to find the biggest place you can for the least expense.
Maybe.
Right?
Maybe.
For me, it's budgetary.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you want the largest, most flexible space for the least amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had reunions in the past in hotels,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times,
Mm-hmm.
right? Hotels, but also community centers,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Churches.
Churches.
Lots of churches.
So I think, again, looking for, because as you said, you don't know how many people are going to show up,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes it hard to plan.
Mm-hmm.
So you definitely do not want to sign a contract that will be beyond your budget for a venue.
Well, the first reunion was held in Aunt Cora Huff's backyard, and we had rented a tent from the local funeral home. I was very young, but I remember the tent. So that is a possibility that you could do something like that.
Yeah, I think so. So, when looking at the venue and selecting the venue, you will probably have to reserve it. There may be some paperwork. It should be made clear that the host is the one reserving and signing the paperwork in the host's name. So not in the name of the family, but in the name of the individual.
Correct.
Okay? So venue is identified, a flexible venue with accessibility, clear signage, lots of free parking is identified. I think the next step of planning is identifying the date.
Yes, that's very important.
And our Lewis-Lowry Family Reunion Incorporated bylaws actually speak to the rule about what the date must be.
Yes.
So I think most people know that there is a rule, but we will review it here just to make sure.
Okay.
So under procedures, it states that the reunion proper will meet annually on July 4th, unless otherwise designated by the family council.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've seen many times where, and there's also a rule where it cannot be held on a Sunday.
Correct.
Okay, so if July 4th falls on a Sunday, then generally we, the host, would ask the council if they could hold it on the Saturday before.
Yes, that's the usual thing to do.
That's the usual thing. If July 4th is held in the middle of the week, then usually we have it the Saturday after. Isn't that right?
Usually.
Usually.
But it could be the Saturday before. But usually it is after. And you need to look at the holiday in terms of how people's work schedules are. So if the holiday is on a Wednesday and actually they give people that Thursday off maybe, you might want to go towards that. Or if they give them that Tuesday, you might want to back it up. But you can figure that out, because it'll be pretty clear when would be the better time to have it.
But I think it's very important to note what the rule says about unless designated by the family council. So the host, if it's not on July 4th, which is not a Sunday, if the host is seeking to hold the reunion on a date other than July 4th, which cannot be a Sunday, you must seek the council's approval.
That's correct.
So I think from past, the council is very flexible.
Very.
So it's not generally ever an issue, but I think it should be pointed out that when we come to the family reunion council meeting, this is part of the procedures, is asking for a date change if it will not be held on July 4th.
Yes.
Right?
That's right.
Okay. So we've talked about the venue, we've talked about the date. I think that wraps up step number 3.
Okay.
Once you've got your venue, you've got your date, we're rolling. Now it's number 4. Number 4 is about accommodations. The rooms. This is a big deal to you. You want to talk about that?
I think that you should try to find a place that is very, the word is not nice, the word is extremely clean, number 1. That's
important.
That's very important, clean. Again, a place that is easily located, and you also must consider cost of the accommodation. So in order to find a place that is what I consider nice, and at a good cost, you may have to visit the place, check it out,
for sure,
and see not only what the lobby looks like, but what the room looks like. In the past, we have had wonderful accommodations, and many of them have been near to nice restaurants, even shopping centers, and things that allow the family to have other places that they will have the opportunity to go. But you want to have a clean, and lastly, you want to have a very safe place. So you don't want to pick something in a place where their car is likely to get broken into, or something like that, because we have had lots of experiences in this over 70 years of having reunions. So the accommodations are good. And you want to have an accommodation where you have a variety of rooms. You want to have some king rooms, you want to have some rooms with 2 beds, and you also, if possible, you want to have some rooms that have handicap accessible, where people who need wheelchair accommodations or other things like that, they would be able to come there. So the accommodations, if you are concerned, please ask somebody, that has done it in the past, or at least talk to them on the phone, get some pictures, or something, or some advice from somebody if you are having a concern about it. Because it's much better for you to choose an accommodation that meets the family's expectations than to get something and then get constant complaints or even have to clean the place before you can stay there. So you don't want anything like that.
I would agree. I think you've summed up the top things to look for when selecting your accommodations. I would like to talk about the contractual part of selecting accommodations, because I think the contracts of all of this are probably the scary parts for the host, right?
Definitely, especially if you haven't done it before.
Right? So, when you go to book a block of rooms at your chosen hotel, many times what I will say to family members wishing to host is, do not sign a contract that has a clause called an attrition clause. And basically this clause says that you're signing guaranteeing so many room nights, so many nights will be booked. And this guarantee is that even if those rooms are not booked, then you're still responsible for that minimum. So I always advise family members to not sign any type of a contract or not choose those hotels that have those type of guarantees built in, because if those guaranteed minimums are not met, it is the host's responsibility to meet those gaps. So the family reunion itself will not pay for that difference, right? Because the contract is signed in the host's name, not in the Lewis-Lowry Family Reunion Incorporated's name, and so those differences or gaps would fall on the host. There are plenty of hotels that will allow you to start with a small, I always recommend hosts start with the minimum number of rooms to hold a block. Generally, it's about 10. I also generally recommend that 2/3 of those be double bedrooms and 1/3 king bedrooms. Once you have those 10 rooms or that minimum number of rooms completely booked, then you would want to negotiate with the hotel that you would be able to add on some additional rooms at a small increment to open that up. So hopefully this is pretty clear, right? You want to start with the minimum number of rooms and then have that flexibility to be able to add on a couple more rooms without any loss to you as the host. Many times these block contracts will say something like, you must cancel the block or let go of the remaining rooms by a certain cutoff date, and then that way there will be no cost to the host. So make sure and pay real close attention to the fine print of contracts and make sure you understand those guaranteed nights or any of that contractual language so that you don't run into any issues there.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay, so I think that sums up step number 4, choosing good accommodations for the family. Number 5, the final step, is planning for the food, the meal, the catering, right?
That's very important.
Why?
Because we like to eat.
We do like to eat.
And we like good food.
We do like good food.
Tasty and nourishing.
That would be true. So, with planning for the food, I think it's simple if it's being held at a hotel.
Sometime.
Okay. Not all the time?
No, not all the time. You have to pay attention. You need to pay attention to the cost. And you even probably need to check to see if the hotel really has good food. Maybe you need to try to, if they have a restaurant, you need to try to eat there a couple of times. Or if there's other events that they are catering, maybe you might want to go and check it out.
That's a good suggestion. So, Generally, at a hotel, the hotel requires you to use, if you're using their room as the venue for the reunion proper, they generally require you to use their catering, right? They don't generally allow you to bring in food. I have seen, though, some hosts be able to bring in, like if they're having a lunch, they're able to bring in some donuts or something for breakfast, a little snack, right? I've seen that before, but you would definitely want to check with the hotel
Correct.
and their rules.
Yes.
I would say that a community center gives you a lot of flexibility,
Some,
right? In terms of you could cook the food yourself.
sometimes.
There's no rule against that.
You have to know what your community also allows, and what the community center allows. So you just need to find out what the rules are. Don't just assume, anything. Find out, because some places do want to go by the local health regulations.
Well, that's always good to know.
Yes.
So, when looking for a caterer or food for your reunion, I think let's touch on the contractual requirements here again. Because contractually, there are three things that a host is responsible for: the venue, the accommodations, the lodging, and now the food. This is really hard, the food, right? Because when you don't know who's showing up, how do you properly contract for unknown people?
Yep.
Now, as a host, you're probably thinking, what do you mean you don't know who's showing up? We have reunion assessments, people sign up, they pay their money, they tell us ahead of time. Does that really happen?
It happens to an extent. But with the Lewis-Lowry family, people tend to pop up on the day of the reunion. And this is not good. I really don't like it. I don't know why people don't know a year ahead of time whether they can make it, but I guess sometimes they get sick, sometimes they don't know if they'll have the finance to come. But whatever the situation is, many times we have people show up on the day of the reunion who have not said they were coming and have not sent funds, so we don't know they're coming. We don't know they're showing up, so we don't have an adequate time to prepare for them.
And that can be difficult.
Very.
That can be difficult. Generally, though, it's not a lot of people, meaning it's not generally 50 people.
Well, one time we had like 20.
We had 20 just show up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, contractually, when you are negotiating with your venue caterer, so if it's a hotel and you're negotiating with the catering for that hotel, or with your independent caterer that you're bringing into your venue. Again, I'm going to talk about those contracts. This is a big deal because the host is the one that signs the contract for the catering in the host's name, and the host is responsible. So, you want to start really small. I always tell hosts, start with the minimums. What is the minimum to book? Just to get on the books, to start the contract. You start there, and then you ask them how much time can you have to add on your final guaranteed number. And then you can grow. But you don't want to start too big and then find out that you've contracted and guaranteed them a number and you don't make that number.
Yeah.
Right? Because, again, and I'm going to continue to say this, the host is responsible for any overruns. Right? And so, in my opinion, again, it's always better to start small, really understand your contract rules, and then grow to what your final cutoff date is.
And you want a caterer that has some flexibility and also that can handle both small and large crowds.
Sounds good. So, we've now talked about the 5 steps to hosting a successful Lewis-Lowry Family Reunion Incorporated reunion proper. Step 1 was plan and start early, 6 to 9 months at a minimum. Number 2, get your planning committee together and start to delegate and share the workload. Number 3, Choose your location and identify your date at that location that are within the Lewis-Lowry Family Reunion Incorporated bylaws rules. Number 4, you're going to choose your lodging accommodations and sign that contract. Number 5, you will settle on your reunion proper caterer and food arrangements.
Yep.
That is your responsibilities as host. So we talked quite a bit about money. We talked a whole lot about what's the host responsibility and that they've signed these contracts and it's all on them. So let's kind of talk about how the family reimburses the host for the reunion proper expenses.
Oh, you can get reimbursed?
Yeah,
Oh, that sounds good.
I think so. I think we try to support the host as much as we can with the reunion proper.
Okay.
So, we know that the Family Reunion Council is super important here, right? We know that they're the ones that approve the date. They also are going to oversee the host's planning, right?
Oh, okay.
So, when you as a host are nearing your reunion, generally it's in the same year as your reunion will be occurring. Remember we said you have started before your reunion. You know it's going to be on July 4th or right around there. So you've got your 9 months before that. You've started and you're planning. So when you get to the Family Reunion Council meeting, you come and want to come prepared. You want to have everything you need to make it as easy as possible for them to approve, and get you on to your reunion.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's no real hard and fast rule about when the council meeting will occur. So, the tidbit to take here in your notes is that it's going to be generally in March or April. March or April before your July reunion. So that gives you plenty of time, if you started your 9 months early, to get all your details ready, get all your hotel brochures, your venue brochures. You've got all that, and now you're at the council.
Okay.
Okay. So, how does a successful host present their reunion plan to the council?
Well, it should be very organized. You should have everything laid out before the council meeting in terms of, as we've already said, the date, the place, and you should have contacted the caterer so that you know the cost of the reunion meal, because this will be very important in setting the cost of the family assessment.
I agree. So let's jump into that, because I think sometimes hosts are a little bit unsure
Oh, yes.
of how the assessment is determined based on the reunion proper expenses.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. And you should have the cost of the accommodation. You should have everything by the time that the council meeting comes, so that they have a complete picture of what you are planning and how much everything will cost.
I think you're right. So let's talk about that assessment, because the assessment is based on the cost of the reunion proper. That is what the assessment is paying for. This is the family reunion assessment that is sent out to family members immediately following the family council meeting, asking and notifying family members of the upcoming reunion and providing them the cost amount that they need to submit if they plan on attending. So there generally are 3 age categories when we talk about the assessment. Generally, there are 3. Toddler, which is usually, does not have to be, but it's usually like 3 and under. Generally, toddlers are free. Children, that's generally 4 to 11. And they are generally a discounted price. And then adults, 12 and over. That's generally the case. However, let me say to you, this is totally determined by your catering contract, because your caterer is already going to tell you what age of a child can eat for free, what age of a child will be a reduced price from an adult. So you really don't want to look to the family to determine those age brackets. You're looking to your catering contract. So when you come to the council meeting, you have your contract, and you already know those 3 areas. Identify the ages that go into those. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. How do you ahead of time calculate how much you want to ask the family for? I think my simple little mathematics is I take the cost of the venue, right?
Yep.
And I take the cost of the catering.
Yep.
And basically, how can I describe it as simple as possible? With the catering, it's a cost per person with a per person minimum. So, if the catering is $10 per person and the minimum is 10 people, you take 10 times 10, and that gives you 100. Mm-hmm. That's the cost of the catering, $100, plus the cost of the venue. So let's say the cost of the venue is an additional $500. That would give you $600 total. $500 for the venue, 10 times 10, $100 for catering, added together, $600. Remember, we said 10 people are attending. That's the minimum. That's that catering number. So we take $600 divided by 10 people. That's a reunion assessment of $60 per person adult.
Yes.
Simple or not?
Well, we'll see.
If the catering contract says that children ages 11 to 5 will be 50%, then we know we take the $60, 50% of that is $30, and we can say children ages 6 to 11 are $50. If the caterer says children 5 and under are free, now we've got our brackets. We've got adults at $60, children at $30, and what we call in the family toddlers, free. Simple?
It sounds simple, but I know people get very confused.
Well, it's okay to be confused, because on the family reunion side, there's support, right?
Yes.
So I know myself as the treasurer, I have assisted many hosts, and you were treasurer too, and you assisted many hosts.
Many.
And we are here to assist.
That's right.
So no one taking on the reunion is doing it by themselves. All questions are encouraged, and I know personally I currently hold meetings with hosts to make sure we're all on the same page and everything's going to run smoothly.
Yes.
Okay? Mm-hmm. So that sums up the information that you're supposed to provide to the host at that council meeting that we know most often happens in March or April before that July reunion. You're going to come to them with the location of the reunion proper, including the address, the full complete address, street number, city, and state. You're also going to come to them with the accommodations address.
Yep, and phone number.
Complete. And generally, you also come with some type of booking details. It is perfectly fine to book the block or name the block Lewis-Lowry Family Reunion. Most people do. Make sure it's spelled right, please, in the block, but that's what most people do. So when we're calling up and we're looking to make our reservations right away, we know what to find. That's number 2. And number 3, you're going to come to them with that assessment cost. Note, this is just a side note from me being a host personally, if you have a breakfast reunion, that's the cheapest food. if you have a lunch reunion, that's the middle of the road food. But the most expensive food is dinner food.
Generally.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about assessments. What do you think in terms of like the family's assessment tolerance?
Well, this family does not want an extremely high assessment. They like to keep it within reach where they believe everybody can afford to come. So over these years, we have tried very hard to make sure that it's a reachable assessment. And we still continue to do that even with this inflationary period that we're in now.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are looking at how much, you cannot add on anything for other activities. It's just for the meal, and you should look for a caterer that is reasonable. You may not need a caterer that has a lot of fancy stuff or that comes with a lot of fancy stuff. You're concerned about the food, the quality of the food, the cleanliness of the food, and the dependability. So you want somebody who's going to show up at your event. So you want to make sure and check their references and that type of thing. So as for the assessment, keep it within a reasonable amount, but we know that different towns, cities, that the prices, when you go to a large urban area, many times the prices are higher.
Yes.
And we realize that when we allow you to have a reunion in that place, that the price is going to be higher. So we understand that. But still at the same time, try to do your best to keep it within, and I'm not giving a price because the prices now are very, very different, but just try to keep it within what would be considered a reasonable price. Try to keep it within the price that you would be willing to pay if you were the guest at the reunion.
I think that's a good rule of thumb. Thank you for that. So we've talked about what the reunion is, and one thing I heard you say is that the assessment is for the meal only, but it will also cover the venue for the reunion.
Mm-hmm.
So it is to support the reunion proper in occurring. Okay? So talk about all of the other fun activities that a host may consider having, like the meet and greet. I think people think that is the reunion, the meet and greet, right? Because people show up there's people that show up for the meet and greet and don't show up for the reunion, right?
Definitely.
So it is definitely a really fun time, very casual, generally, to get to see everybody, very exciting. And people throw in other things around that, meaning we can have game nights, we can have trivia time, we can have karaoke, we could have bowling, we could have other things.
Well, you've covered just about all the events. But I did want to say that the meet and greet, as we have said and we want to emphasize again, it's not a requirement to have a reunion. It's generally held the day before the reunion as people are traveling and they get there and they have an opportunity to see each other. So it's sort of a tradition that we have that, but it's not a necessity.
Totally correct. Because, and why we are emphasizing this is because the meet and greet is the responsibility. All other activities, not only the meet and greet, but all other activities surrounding the reunion proper are the responsibility, the financial responsibility of the host.
Yes.
But we do have some little family traditions to help the host in offsetting these costs.
Yes.
So talk about that.
Well, in the past, we have had what we call the northern cousins and the southern cousins, and even other family members who may not be part of the North or the South that have made donations. This is the responsibility of the host to determine if you need to request additional donations, and you can go to the southern cousins or the northern cousins, or you can go to any cousins really and ask for donations if this is something. Now, if you can afford to do whatever it is that you want to do without asking for money, by all means, go for it, and we'll enjoy the activities. But if you would like to have help, and many times that works out, you can feel free to do that. In order to do this, you should confer with the Family Reunion Council president, and he or she will let you know who, if anybody at that time, would be in charge of the northern group or the southern group. So this is a possibility, and you could look further into it through consultation with the council president.
I think you summed that up. So as we clarify and move on to our next topic, t-shirts, pins, bags, decorations, all of that is out of the host's pocket.
Well, I wouldn't say t-shirts or even pins or even lanyards.
Okay.
You can ask people if they want a t-shirt, if they want a lanyard, if they want a mask, if they want a hat, or notebook. Even we've had beautiful keychains and things, but generally these things are at a cost. Again, if you can afford it and you want to gift it to your family, again I say go for it. But like for the t-shirts, in the past we've had very good t-shirt vendors, and so you've been able to ask the family members if they want a t-shirt or something like that to order it ahead of time, and we've come up with, through very creative family members, beautiful designs for the t-shirts, and so we have lots of them. And most people do want to have a family reunion t-shirt. It's almost been a tradition, and people are now saying, well, where's the t-shirt? So, but again, you don't have to have a t-shirt. It's not necessary. There are even family flags, and there's all kinds of things, if you would really prefer to have that, that you could do. But again, with these, if it's something that has to be ordered ahead of time or prepared ahead of time, give yourself plenty of time, and also look at your budget and see, even though they have these wonderful blinged out shirts at $150, you may not want to encourage the family to get those. Maybe you'll want something that's more reasonably priced.
I think you make an excellent point that for some of the items, you can definitely add it on as an option for your reunion guests. So like the t-shirts, you will have this information available when you come to the council meeting so that family members can be notified about those sales in the reunion packet. And then generally we order them directly. Attendees pay for them directly, no cost to the host, and they're walking around advertising your family reunion. So that's really cool, and no cost to the host. I think that's also true with tours. We've gone on plenty of tours at reunions, and those are advertised ahead of time, and those who are interested in attending, you pay and sign up ahead of time, you get your seat for the tour, and those who are not interested don't have to pay, and again, no cost outlay for the host if planned properly, so that all their seats are sold and we can go off on a tour, right? So those are some some activities I think we've touched on that are in addition to, but may be at a cost to the host and are not covered by the reunion assessment. Unfortunately, there are times when we have cost overruns on the meet and greet or on other parts of the reunion, and I think it's really, really important that hosts understand that if they have miscalculated or some, it is the host's responsibility, right?
Right.
Okay, so how does the money work? We already talked about how we calculate the assessment. We know that this assessment is advertised to the family at large. We know that those who say they are attending pay the assessment, hopefully in advance of the reunion, hopefully by the cutoff date, so that we can plan for them to attend. So what happens with the money, and how does the money come back to the host? So as treasurers,
Yes.
we know that it is also in our bylaws allowing hosts to receive up to $1,500 in advance before a reunion.
Mm-hmm.
So this $1,500 is to assist a host with setting up the contract, with guaranteeing, with confirming their reunion proper venue and caterer.
Mm-hmm.
And so this can be given before we really start to see assessments coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, these payments are made to the location. Generally, right?
Right.
So,
Be careful with that. Don't deposit something that's not returnable if you're not sure that this is the venue or caterer that you would like to use.
please be careful, as this is the family's money that we are advancing before the reunion. And so how this works is we know we're allowed to advance up to $1,500, and the first $1,500 in assessments that family members pay go to reimburse that $1,500. So we recoup it from the first $1,500 worth of assessments received. Pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
After that, after we've taken care of repaying that $1,500, the assessments that are collected all go and start to build up for the host, right?
Right.
Generally, I, as treasurer, release these funds to the host at the end of the reunion proper. Generally, that's when I do it. However, I can say if a host requests from me that they need money in the middle, money in the interim, then I have released funds more than just the $1,500 at the beginning and the final payment at the end. I have released money in the middle. But generally, I've never had to release money any more often than that, right? Because generally, that is the case. Makes sense?
Makes sense.
So that basically sums up how the money works. The $1,500 advance, and then as people pay, the $1,500 that is advanced is repaid from the collected assessments. Then after that, I keep track of so many adults and so many children and so many toddlers, and then I'm going to collect their money, save it up for the host, and give it to them at the close of the reunion proper.
Yep, sounds good.
Are there any other things that we should wrap up our video by making sure that all these new hosts know?
Well, again, I want to encourage the, I call them the third generation, to take on hosting. It's very rewarding. You get to know through working with some family members in your area that maybe you haven't had a chance previously to get to know that well. And then when you see it come together on the 4th of July or near that time, you know, it's just so wonderful. You know, when the people start showing up and they are so happy to be there, and I think it's very rewarding. So I just want to encourage you to think about hosting a family reunion, and I do want to say we are here to help. You know, you're not out there by yourself, and I know that if you live someplace where maybe there's only you, like Texas, for example, you might feel like I'm here alone and, you know, I got to take on all this. But nowadays with technology, you know, you can have people all over the country that can support you.
For sure.
And as I said, we are here to support you. And we want this family reunion to go on for many, many, many years in the future. You have done so well, family, and even through the pandemic,
Yes.
we managed to
Yes.
continue having gatherings, and then we're able to come together, you know, after the pandemic and recover and just about take up right where we left off. So I think it's a blessing from God that, you know, we have this wonderful family, and I'm thankful for it, and I encourage you to help us to sustain it.
And with that, we will bring our first episode of the Lewis-Lowry Family Reunion Live to a close. We love you, family.